Hey there, today you are meeting Lindsey Litton, who is an Air Force spouse and the co-founder of the MilHousing Agent Network. I actually used her network when I bought our first house in Jacksonville. She's going to talk to us about a very special city in Texas. We know that Texas is known for its fair share of bases. Lindsey has experience living in San Antonio, and she's going to tell us some things that might surprise you about what you'll find when you're living there.
This is the duty station, download across the nation. This is the duty station, download it, download it. This is the duty station, download it.
Welcome back to the Duty Station Download, where you get everything you need to know about your next duty station. So tell me a little bit about what brought you to San Antonio. What was your first impression when you got there? At what point in your spouse's career were you in there?
So San Antonio was a really awesome opportunity for us. We had just finished 4 full years at Cannon Air Force Base when we learned we'd be heading to San Antonio. So we would oftentimes spend our time in Lubbock, Texas. So we're like, yes, we love Texas. We were really excited for the barbecue, the line dancing, the boots. I'll say when we went to San Antonio, we just embraced Texas culture like out of the gate. First thing we did is we went and bought our cowboy boots, because you need boots when you go to San Antonio, because it is country, it is all Texas, it is so much fun, and it is growing. When we got there, that was, let's see, it's been 5 years since we've lived in San Antonio. So it was on the cusp of just exploding, and it's still affordable. That was what was fun when we got there. And it's still affordable in terms of housing. So you're able to buy a lot of house in Texas in a major city and keep it within BAH. And as you know, that's really hard to do in a lot of major cities. So that's a really amazing thing about San Antonio. My husband was in his mid-career, Air Force wise. So we were joining a unit there at Randolph Air Force Base, and the base, if you've ever been to Randolph, is gorgeous. They decorate it beautifully around the holidays.
You said the first thing you did when you got there was get your cowboy boots, and you're not the only person who's told me that. So I think for everyone who's listening who's headed to San Antonio, if you don't have your cowboy boots, you've got to buy a pair as soon as you get there. Lindsey, do you remember where you got yours? Do you have a recommendation on where to go to find those cowboy boots?
Boot Barn. Got to go to the Boot Barn. You can go to the Boot Barn, and there's just like hundreds of boots to pick from. And you just are like, okay, here we go. What kind of boots do I want? You've got like riding boots, which have more of a pointy toe. And they've got other boots that have like square toe. So you got to get your boots because you can wear them pretty much year round, because you can wear them with pants, you can wear them with shorts, you can wear them with a skirt. You can just wear your boots wherever you want.
Yes, I love that.
So the big thing in San Antonio is every year they have the rodeo, and it's like a month-long thing of different activities that are going on for rodeo. And my kids, we took them when they were little, and so of course they needed boots and hats and things, so they loved it. My daughter had these really cute red, white, and blue cowboy boots with the Texas star on them, which was fun. And I've got pictures of her petting these, I don't know how they get cows this clean, but these cows are just so clean, and they got these beautiful pink noses. And I've got some pictures of her hanging out with the cows. And this famous llama, they've got a llama thing that's really fun for the kids. You can go in, they've got llamas everywhere. It's like a petting zoo kind of thing. You could go in and take these pictures with these llamas and get up close and personal with them. And it was fun. So much fun.
My heart is like aching over the mental image of kids in rodeo gear and petting cows and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And my husband would absolutely lose it. We love the rodeo. Okay, so tell me more about San Antonio. Tell me about the Riverwalk, the Alamo, all of the fun things to do while you're there. I guess really what I'm asking is, for our friend who's watching right now, what should their bucket list be? I mean, you're only there for a few years, right? You're not stationed. I mean, unless you're lucky, you're not stationed somewhere very long. So what should you be doing while you're in San Antonio?
So you absolutely need to make a list, okay? At the top of your list, when you get there, you need to go see the Alamo. It's anticlimactic, so I'm not going to ruin it for everyone. You in your mind, because of how amazing they make it seem on the internet, you're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so big and epic. And then you get there and you're like, it was 10 minutes. Okay.
This is
I
it.
saw it. And you take pictures and you're like, okay, great. That took about 10, 15 minutes and let's go get some lunch. So it's very interesting. And it's really cool to see. So you have to go see it, but it's very small. And if you have children or a stroller, you're kind of like, okay, and we're done. So it's really kind of neat to see. So you go see the Alamo. The Alamo is right on the Riverwalk, so you can venture from the Alamo to the Riverwalk. You're gonna hang out at the Riverwalk for a bit. You're gonna realize really quick that there's a lot of steam that comes off the Riverwalk, and San Antonio in general is really humid, and there's a lot of tourists. So here's the thing for parents with little kiddos. The Riverwalk freaked me out because I had a toddler. There are no guardrails between the sidewalk and the river. Okay. So when you have a toddler who's a darter, it's very scary because you're thinking the entire time my child is going to fall into that water and that water looks dirty. So you're kind of freaking out the entire time. So take a stroller if you've got darters, and belt the babies into the stroller while you're enjoying the Riverwalk. And that's how I enjoyed it. And it's way more pleasurable that way. Otherwise, the Riverwalk is great. I highly advise checking it out around Christmas time because they decorate it and they have floats.
Yeah.
So they have the river cruises that do different kinds of floats with lights, and it's so cool to see. So that is really neat. It's kind of like Vegas. When you live in Vegas, you only go to the Strip when you first move there. You're really excited about it, and then you're like, and now that we've done that, we're just going to kind of stay in our little area. So once you kind of experience it, you'll notice like you kind of go to the Riverwalk when family comes to town and they want to see like the Alamo and the Riverwalk. You don't really hang out down there very often. So the Riverwalk's really neat. You got to check that out. They've got really cool districts that are emerging in San Antonio. So the Pearl District is a new district that's just popped up. So the Riverwalk is, really downtown. The Pearl is kind of downtown, but it's further up. The Pearl also has a portion of the Riverwalk that goes through it. It's just new. So I would say if you're wanting to have like a really cool, like hipster experience, the Pearl is where it's at. It's got really cool areas for the kids to run around and play. It's got like funky type restaurants. You got to try Lick, my favorite ice cream place. You get really cool ice cream fusion at Lick. You can try like avocado ice cream, beet mint ice cream, my personal favorite, which it sounds disgusting, but it is amazing. They have Texas sheet cakes, a really fun flavor. And the Pearl by far was probably one of my favorite districts to hang out in. They also have La Gloria in the Pearl, which is this really good Mexican restaurant that you can get different types of street tacos. Margaritas are amazing. Ceviche is my favorite. And that is right on the Riverwalk, but it's not the traditional Riverwalk. So it's a newer kind of Riverwalk, but they have the river barges that if you wanted to take a river tour. Ooh, here's a fun tip. If you want to do here's a river tour. So the river tours are like $80 a pop per person, right?
Okay.
You can get the same experience if you take a river taxi, and that's like a fraction of the price. So you could take a river taxi from one end of the river to the other and not avoid, and then you can avoid the tourists, the lines, and the overpricing.
That's amazing. Okay. So I'm repeating for your to-do list. Yes, we got the Alamo, we got the Riverwalk, the Pearl District, and at the Pearl District, you need to go to Lick for artisan ice cream, La Gloria's for amazing tacos, and while you're at the Riverwalk, definitely do the river experience, but don't pay $80. Just take a water taxi instead.
Yes.
Okay.
Fun date night if you take a water taxi from one end of the river to the other, and then you get to experience the lights and everything without having to be jammed in there with a bunch of tourists. A couple other places to try that before we get off this subject, because there's a lot to do in San Antonio. So San Antonio has a Six Flags. So if you guys are a family that's interested in adventure parks, you can get a season pass to Six Flags, and they do a bunch of cool stuff. I know we were talking about holiday things. They've got a really fun like haunted house thing that they do during Halloween. They've got a Christmas thing that they do. My kids were babies when we were there, so we didn't get to participate in it. Had we have been there now when they're 8 and 10, we would have been there all the time. And they've got one of the first 3D roller coasters, which I got to ride when they opened it up, called the Batman roller coaster.
Ooh.
Super fun. And you get to ride all angles of the track in that roller coaster, which is a lot of fun while your feet dangle. So that's another one to add to the bucket list. We were a big fan of 𝗤𝗏𝗏, which a lot of people don't know about. 𝗤𝗏𝗏 is a big water park out in 𝗕𝗏𝗺𝗄, and they also have a military day, so you can get like half price tickets or something on a military day. And
so is that close to San Antonio?
Yep, it's like 40 minutes from the city, depending on what side you live in. Because again, if you live
in 𝗕𝗏𝗺𝗺,
yep.
Okay.
But if you look up 𝗤𝗏𝗏, it's German inspired, and they've got just fun like lazy river and water slides. And because San Antonio is so hot, it's a great thing to do during the summer.
Yeah, I would imagine you absolutely need a water park when your 3 primary temperatures are warm, hot, and super hot.
Yeah. Oh, and they use the river water from the Guadalupe in their slides. So you're not getting like super chlorinated water also, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that is kind of cool. I really like how you described San Antonio really gets into the holiday spirit, but I heard that they also have their own holiday. Can you explain that to us?
So this was something I learned my first year. I wish somebody would have told me about it, because you don't get it until you live there, and it's called Fiesta. So the entire city shuts down for one day in April. And if you're new there, you're like, what's happening? What is Fiesta? And Fiesta is I think it runs for the entire month of April, but they just have citywide events the entire time celebrating, Mexican heritage and Mexican culture. It's pretty awesome. So the schools get into it. My kids were in preschool while we were there. So, Fiesta floats are a really big thing. They have Fiesta royalty. So they have like a king or queen of Fiesta, and then they have these really cool medals. So if you're the type of person that likes to collect things, this is going to be your jam. But they have these medals that they make. Different businesses, different organizations make a medal, and you collect the medals. And people have like sashes that they wear that they stick their medals on, and vests and things. The Fiesta is usually downtown. They decorate the barges, like the river cruise boats, and it's just really cool. Different floats that they have going on. The kids, schools usually have the kids create their own floats, like out of shoe boxes. And my kids were toddlers at the time, so I paper mache'd a float for them, and then they get to pull it behind them. They have like their own little parades. It's just a lot of fun. And if you're new to the city, you're like, what is this? But it's a big deal, and the entire city shuts down for one day to celebrate Fiesta.
Oh, it sounds like a blast. I would have so much fun doing that. And I can't wait to see like the little kids in their floats. That's adorable.
Oh, you aren't living in Texas if you haven't heard of the 𝗕𝗍. And anyone that has ever lived in Texas, they know what I'm talking about. I know back east they have Wegmans, right? Wegmans is like the store for folks that is in the DC, Virginia area. Well, I will say that 𝗕𝗍 is the equivalent of Wegmans. And it's just amazing. You go in, I can't even describe what makes it amazing. They have their own 𝗕𝗍 products. So they've got like different kinds of sauces and stuff that you can't get anywhere else. It's all 𝗕𝗍. And it gets to the point where I've even seen in a lot of the spouse groups, they're like, if anybody's going to Texas, can you pick this up at 𝗕𝗍 and bring it back? So, they've got their own line of products and stuff. And they've got like a really robust organic section, which I appreciate. But they've got like super high-end 𝗕𝗍s, which is kind of like a really cool Whole Foods meets cheaper prices. So they'll have like a sushi place, and they'll have like wine tasting, and they'll have like electronics section. You can pretty much get anything you need at HEB.
Honestly, I'm such a foodie, so the older I get, the more I really appreciate a super good grocery store. I love the grocery stores that you can walk into, and they've got a dining like prep area where you can take your food over and they'll cook it for you. And I love the variety.
Magic, Kimber?
Yes, this is at Earth Fair. And then I'm a huge Kroger fan too. And Kroger has just started delivering to where I am in Jax. But anyway, tell me a little bit about the environment. You told me before it was kind of like living in Vegas. You compared it to that. Can you explain that?
So let's talk about the heat for a moment. So when you go to San Antonio, expect it to be hot and hot. It has 3 temperatures: hot, super hot, and warm. Those are what you're gonna get there. Okay.
Not in that order.
Yep. It never really gets cold. Cold by the definition of Colorado or Alaska, but it does get chilly. I will say I was there when they had quote unquote snow, and it was more like freezing rain pebbles.
Like hail. It was hail.
It was hail. It was accumulation of hail that they decided they were going to call it snow. It shuts down the city. I will say that. Like if it gets cold, the entire city just shuts down. Like they aren't prepared to remove it. They don't know how to handle it, and they sure as heck don't know how to drive in it. So
I have experienced that. Being from Alabama, nobody knows how to deal with snow there. It'll snow 3 inches. We're out of school and out of work for a week. It's nuts.
Yeah. Oh, yep. So, it was very different having experienced seasons to going to a place where, 50, 60 degrees and you're like bundled up. It's like we're going to the Arctic. People would be in full parkas and you're like, it's only 50. But you get used to it.
Well, you've told me about all of these incredible things. I need to know, are there any cons about moving to San Antonio that you want to make our viewer aware of?
Yes, there's one thing. So with all the amazing things of San Antonio, traffic is an issue. So the infrastructure of the city hasn't really kept up with the demand of how many people are moving to it. So a lot of people get shocked when they move to San Antonio and they discover, like, I looked up areas for commuting to Lackland Air Force Base, from the northern part of the city. And on Google, it says it should only take 20 minutes. But the reality is it could take an hour and a half with traffic. And so it can get to the point where you're just get an audio book and listen to it in the car because you might get stuck on that highway. And you just try to adjust your lifestyle to, okay, we don't go on 1604 past 4 o'clock. And we're just going to stay off the highway till about 6 when everybody's on it. Because
really good rules of thumb to live by if you're in San Antonio.
Yeah. And you don't realize it because, you could get there, you fly in to go house hunting, you're commuting on the highway at off hours when people aren't driving. We always tell people, if you're going to come check out the area, come in a couple days before, drive the highway during peak commute time so that you can experience it for yourself. Because, hey, you might be coming from DC and San Antonio traffic will just seem like no big deal. So it's all a matter of, your level of comfort and what are you willing to do when you come there. But I will say that's probably one of the biggest cons is that, it's just busy, but it's a big city. My big piece of advice is pick an area that's close to where you want to be so you're not commuting across the city. That way you just save yourself time in the car.